Good morning. So we are going to be this morning again in Proverbs, and now in this time together in chapter 26. So the subject today is how to deal with the fool. That sounds kind of harsh, doesn't it? Thinking of someone, regarding someone as a fool. But the reality is the Bible regards certain individuals as fools. And the fool, like in Psalm 14, is the one who says in his heart, there is no God. Either that person is an atheist, doesn't believe that God exists, or he lives as though God does not exist, even though he knows he does. Either way, the man is a fool. The fool is the one who doesn't fear the Lord, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and wisdom is the opposite of foolishness. So the one who does not fear the Lord, doesn't respect God, doesn't think about God and his word and his promises and these sorts of things, that person is a fool. So how do we deal with a fool? In chapter 26 of Proverbs, the first 12 verses actually deal mostly with that subject. It's pretty interesting how the chapter is laid out, but the first 12 verses are on that subject. So we're going to go through them real quickly. There are a number of them. So in verse 3, the first one, a whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. So the first thing to realize is that a fool puts herself in a situation where they receive punishment. Their behavior, their attitude ultimately comes back at them and bites them. And that discipline can be in the form of natural consequences for their foolishness, or it can be in the form of God himself dealing with them severely in order to get their attention. So we have to leave the fool and his or her judgment ultimately to the Lord and to the foolishness of their own behavior being their own consequences. Interesting. Verse 4 is the next one. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him. And then the next verse, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. So in verse 4, don't answer a fool according to his folly. If you get into an argument with a fool or into a debate with a fool, it's a useless, unending argument that can't go anywhere. So don't do it. But then the next verse says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. So there are times when we should answer a fool according to his folly. So what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? It means we need wisdom. We need to hear from the Lord about when to answer a fool and when not to answer a fool. Either way, we need the wisdom of God. James 1:5 promises that if we ask in faith, he'll give it to us. So it's not a given that we answer a fool according to his folly, but it's also not a given that we don't. Verse 6, he who sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. So there's another way to treat a fool. Don't send messages to others by the hand of a fool. Don't entrust a fool with important or confidential information. They're not worthy of it and they don't know how to handle it. And if you do trust a fool with confidential or important information, this is what will happen. It will be like cutting off your own feet and drinking violence. You'll pay for having committed to a fool information that's confidential or important in order to disseminate it or extend it to somebody else. Verse 7, the next one. Like the legs of the lame that hang limp is a proverb in the mouth of fools. So think of a lame man who has legs that are unable to function, support his body weight, help him walk, or any such thing. Well, a proverb in the mouth of fools is just like that. A proverb in the mouth of the fool does no good. It's useless. It has no function. It doesn't land on anybody's heart that needs to hear it. It doesn't help anyone because the source of that proverb is the fool. So don't pay attention to the wisdom that fools every once in a while seem to have. They're fools. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't fear God. They don't have God's wisdom. And they're not speaking consistently with God's wisdom, even if they don't refer to the Bible directly. So just don't pay attention to it. Don't regard it. Don't give it credit. Verse 8, like one who binds a stone in a sling is he who gives honor to a fool. Like one who binds a stone in a sling is he who gives honor to a fool. So what happens? So you have a sling. It's an open leather or material pouch. You put the sling in the pouch, and then you sling or whirl the sling around, and then you let go, and the sling releases the rock, and it does what it's supposed to do. But if you bind a stone in a sling so that the sling is unable to release the stone, then what happens? You sling the stone, and it ends up coming back and hitting you in the head, and doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do anything. So if I give honor to a fool, then that's what happens. It's like binding a stone in a sling. Eventually, I'm going to get hit in the head, or something's going to happen, or nothing's going to happen, depending on the situation. Verse 9, another one. Like a thorn that goes into the hand of a drunkard is a proverb in the mouth of fools. A drunkard hurts himself without even realizing it. Can't feel the pain. And so a thorn goes into his hand, and his drunkenness keeps him from experiencing the results of the thorn. Well, the same is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. In the mouth of a fool, a proverb ought to do some good, ought to provide some warning, ought to provide some kind of a bit of pain, if you will, that can warn the fool about his or her foolish behavior. But it doesn't. It doesn't do any good at all, because their foolishness drowns out the purpose of the proverb. Verse 10, another one. The great God who formed everything gives the fool his hire and the transgressor his wages. Now this is where we commit the fool into the hands of the Lord, because the Lord loves the fool as he loves the wise. And he wants the fool to become wise. He wants the simple to be attracted to wisdom and attracted to the truth, so that he or she can be delivered from his or her foolishness. And so God in his faithfulness continues to provide the fool his hire and the transgressor his wages. Like it says in the New Testament, he causes the rain to fall and the sun to shine on the good and also on the evil. More about the fool, verse 11. As a dog returns to his own vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. It's true. You watch the life of a fool, and that's the observable thing. They continue to repeat the same mistake over and over, which many have called the definition of insanity. You repeat the same harmful, destructive behavior over and over, but you continue to expect different results the next time you repeat that behavior. That's the definition of insanity, according to many. Well, as a dog returns to its vomit, so also a fool repeats his folly. It just keeps doing it again and again. So what this does, it elicits empathy in our heart for the fool. It's horrible to live a life like that, continuing to repeat the same errors again and again, and expecting different results, only to be disappointed and hopes dashed one more time. We need empathy for the fool, because God cares about the fool, and the Lord wants to use the consequences of a fool's behavior to lead him back to Christ. The last one is in verse 12. Do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. So even worse than a fool is a man who is wise in his own eyes. So if you're around individuals, men or women, whose only source of wisdom is themselves. They are the ultimate judge and jury of pretty much every fact or every alleged fact that is thrown out there. Their own conclusion is the only one that matters because it came from themselves. Well, there's more hope for a fool than for a person like that. So the necessity of being teachable on my part, of course, but also the necessity of being wise concerning those who have this attitude. If somebody's not teachable, somebody is not entreatable, what's the point of trying to interact with that person on any serious level at all? We have to be careful. So ways of dealing with a fool. They're right here in Proverbs. We don't, unfortunately, like this, that we have to be discerning about people, but of course we do. We have to be discerning about people, and we have to be careful concerning how we interact with certain individuals. This is the wisdom of God from the Proverbs. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And if you like this video, then go ahead and click like, or if you prefer, or in addition to that, click subscribe and join those that are hopefully, by the will of God, benefiting from these times in the Word. God bless you.